Hey y'all, my name is Christian, and I'm going to be reading to you guys the book of Romans. We're going over chapter 1, and this is pretty much a summary of it. So there's this man, his name is Paul. He used to be Saul. Now Saul persecuted Jews, and many of them, but he had an encounter with Jesus. It's Jesus asking, "Why are you persecuting me?" And he goes and he says, "Who are you?" And then Jesus goes and responds with, "I am the one that you are persecuting." And so then Saul ended up giving his life over to Jesus and started following him. And Jesus changed his name to Paul. So Paul, he was called to write a letter to the church in Rome, teaching the gospel, which more than likely the first time the Romans had seen Christian literature. Paul, he came to spread the news to the Gentiles that they belong to God, and also calls us Gentiles. So we belong to God. And just as Paul proclaimed that Jesus is the Son of God and the Messiah, and taught it to not only the Jews but also the Gentiles, we are called to do the same thing. Paul also teaches us about the resurrection. So Paul, he had been eager and longing to teach to the Romans the good news of Jesus, and eventually did. And the reason why it's eventually is because he was in prison. While he was teaching to the Romans, he could have taught Caesar himself, Caesar being the king over Rome. So I'm going to be reading to you guys Romans, and this is in chapter 1, verses 16. "For I am not ashamed of the gospel, because it is the power of God that brings salvation to everyone who believes, first to the Jew, then to the Gentile. For in the gospel the righteousness of God is revealed, a righteousness that is by faith, from first to last, just as it is written, the righteous will live by faith." And so the thing about this is that it says the Jews were first because God chose Jews to be a leading example. And this wasn't because they at all deserved it, but because Jesus had mercy over them. And it emphasizes not being ashamed of the gospel. That's one of the first things it says. And that's to show us that we need to be boisterous in our beliefs and to stay firm through Jesus, even through the storm. And because you have full faith in him and his word, nothing can shake it. And so then this gets to God's wrath against sinful humanity. So God's wrath is being revealed to the wicked because they know God and yet stay to their own way of living. And that's how we can often be when we choose sin over God. However, they still believe in their own way of living, knowing God. And so with free will, God gave them over to the sin, as it is shown in Romans chapter 1, verses 24 through 31. God, he doesn't want us to be like robots. He wants us to love him because we love him, and he wants us to live for him because we want to live for him. He doesn't want anything forced. So for the people that chose to reject God, God turned them over to wickedness, evil, greed, depravity. They are full of envy, murder, strife, meaning anger, deceit, and malice. They are gossips, slanderers, which is false accusationers, God haters, insolent, arrogant, and boastful. Fidelity, meaning faithless, no love, no mercy. And those who know God as righteous and just and still do these things deserve death. They don't only continue to do these things despite knowing God, but they encourage others to fall as well. So you may encounter some people who are trying to pressure you into committing these sins as well. And say these people know God's word, however, they don't follow him. Just as Satan, he knows every page like the back of his hand, yet he doesn't live for God. And instead, he tries to bring others down. So that is Romans for y'all. I hope you guys enjoyed.